Hello and welcome to the Experiencing Love podcast. I'm your host, Philip Jocks, and I'm so glad that you're here. I had a mastermind meeting recently, and an intriguing idea came up. It had to do with the topic of branding and focusing our businesses in one direction. And when I think about branding, I actually think about me and who I am. Because at the current stage in my life, I feel as though that's my brand right now. I represent whatever work I'm doing. I represent this podcast. I represent my creations. I also don't delineate who I am and the services that I provide. What I do in my regular life, I do in my business. Who I am on a day-to-day basis is who I show up as in my business. And I had another member of the mastermind bring up a great point in response to another member having some difficulty with this idea of branding in their business. And we realized that each of us has two categories, and they're very broad categories, but it's in a way that we can draw a line between different areas of our lives and our businesses, and also with content creation. And so I started thinking about what my two areas can be. Obviously, it's a very simplistic approach to life, and it's not so easy to just draw a line down the middle. And yet, last night, I had this interesting notion, this interesting idea pop up that came from actually recording this podcast and just thinking about what is it that I normally talk about? What is it that normally pulls my attention? And I realized I talk about two main things. And if I'm not talking about those two things, it can be attributed to one of these two things. And one is obvious. One is love. It's in the name of the podcast. It's in the description. It's in what I do every day. I aim to live in love. And I also acknowledge that I'm not perfect and I don't live in love 100% of the time. And if I'm not experiencing love, what am I experiencing? And then the word fear came up. I've always seen love and fear as opposites. I believe that love is letting go of fear. And yet, I also give myself permission to look at the times in my life where I am afraid and I'm experiencing fear. So I've noticed that the two areas of my life are experiencing love and experiencing fear with how to get back into love. And I'm still developing this idea. And I'm talking about it now in a way to continue developing it. We discussed yesterday how we didn't know what comes first, the development of an idea or sharing it. And after we talked about it a bit, I realized that the development of an idea comes from sharing it. Like when an idea pops up into my mind, I realize I've spent hours on ideas in front of my computer, in my journal, and at the time they were incredible ideas, but it wasn't until I started sharing them that I felt what had traction and what didn't, what actually I believed in and what I didn't. So I feel as though I'm developing my ideas every single day in this podcast. It's my way of experiencing love and then experiencing fear, which is just the absence of love. I talk about fear and the moments I'm afraid and the moments I'm scared or stressed or upset or worried because they all link back to fear and because it's real. It happens, I feel that way, I feel those ways, and I'm not looking to ignore it. Years ago, that was my primary pattern. I loved ignoring the bad feelings. I loved bottling them up, and it was some very fun, very eventful experiences of when that would explode and what I would do and what damage I would cause. Because I never had an outlet and I would just let it bottle up until someone was unlucky enough to be the final straw on the camel's back. It would be the last straw and I would explode. And it got to a point I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted a different pattern, a different habit. I had to do something different. And part of that is experiencing all of it. Experiencing not just love and not just all the good emotions from love, but experiencing the fear as well. The fear, the anxiety, the worry, the sadness, it's all real. And I found that in this practice, in experiencing all of it, embracing all of it, accepting all of it, seeing all of it as who I am, that's made me into the man that I am today. And that's also how I view masculinity in other men. Because it's one thing to not have fear. In that way, a man can be brave. But what I find more admirable and more important is courage. A man that can admit that he's afraid, admit when he's stressed, admit when things aren't going right, and to take action anyways. Take action against the fear, because courage is just action in the face of fear. Bravery is no fear. Anybody can be brave until they're not, but a courageous man is still courageous whether or not there is a fear in front of him or not. And to be able to do that, you have to give space to those feelings. You have to allow yourself to feel the full range of emotions. Our emotions are there to point us in the direction of our needs. And if you avoid some of them or ignore some of them, you're ignoring and avoiding some very important signals and messages that your body and your brain and your heart are trying to communicate with you about what's going on in your life. I find myself regularly feeling uncomfortable, doing things that challenge me, that push me. And then there's other times where I really lean into comfort, because when I'm so surrounded by discomfort, I'm looking for any handle, any grasp on a safe place, on something comfortable. I think that's what I've been feeling for the past few weeks now. This extreme level of discomfort in my external world and the life that's all around me, and feeling as though I need to reach some point of comfort, some point of safety. And what I'm also learning is that while I'm finding these temporary sanctuaries of safety that make me feel good, that give me the dopamine that I'm looking for, like doom scrolling or eating tasty foods, at the end of the day, the sanctuary that I'm looking for is through the discomfort. It's through the fear. It's only once I be courageous and work through what's in front of me that I'm going to find the next level of love that I'm looking for in my life. You know, if we're talking on the terms of experiencing love and fear, if I don't want to feel afraid, I need to feel more love. And I know how to do that. There's this fear and a reality that I've resigned to over the past few months. And it's that I'm doing the uncomfortable thing now, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because when life gets hard, it's about to get better. So I say I've resigned to this fear and reality because the fear is in being uncomfortable and stepping out of my comfort zone. And the reality is that I need to do that in order to expand my comfort zone and grow. And so I say resign, but it's more of accepted and expect it. And not just that, I get this feeling that I just know it's not over. As tough as my challenges have been so far, something tells me that I will hit a new type of rock bottom that I've never hit before. And when I do, and the only direction to go is up, I will skyrocket. Because regardless of whatever bottom I reach, I know that I will never give up. I will never stop believing that I'm on the right path. I may have to pivot, I may have to try something new, but whatever I end up doing externally, I know internally, in my heart, that I'm going in the direction of love. I know that fear is something I aim to experience less and less of as I grow older. I know it's not going to be possible to fully get rid of it, but I also know that my emotions don't have control over me. I have control over my emotions. I decide if I'm going to love or be afraid. And I know life is going to throw me many, many opportunities to be afraid. I realize that one of my core beliefs is that whenever I notice a fear, it becomes a must. It becomes a must to work through it, to overcome it, and not run away from it. I've had many decisions over the last few weeks that I've had to either double back on or really think about and ask myself the question, is this a reaction out of fear? Because no matter how great an opportunity may seem that's in front of me, I know that if it's not in the exact direction that I'm looking to grow in, it's a distraction. It's meant to pull me off course. And it's me succumbing to my fears. Because I almost see it like a mountain in front of me. And at the peak of that mountain is everything that I want in my life. But that mountain is made of fear. It could be the dirt, it could be the trees, it could be the rock, the snow. It's all a different type of fear. And the more that I'm pointed at the peak, the larger the fear is. And so if I react to fear by turning a few degrees to the left or right, well, then I'm not going to hit the peak. And yes, I chose the path of less fear, and that'll give me less rewards in my future. Because while I'm climbing this mountain of fear, I'm being pulled with the strength of love. It's not just pulling me, it's pulling me, it's pushing me, it's encouraging me forward to do what I have to do to step over my fear. and reach the peak. And then I love this analogy because you reach the peak, and only from that peak do you see the even larger mountain on the other side. That's way further away, and we get to start that journey next. Coming down from one mountain and finding the next, and climbing the even bigger mountain and reaching even higher levels. Not just for ourselves, but for our family, for our friends, for strangers, and for clients, for our pets even. I want a great life so that I could treat my pets to the life that they deserve. So today, not only am I experiencing love, but I'm also experiencing fear. And from that fear, I'm getting back into love. I hope I gave you something to think about. And if not, well, you could bet that I'll be thinking about this. And maybe the downloads that come in the following days will be more relevant to you, more important. You're important. And I thank you for being here. Remember to always fill up with the love. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I love you.